The waiting room was packed. 33 applicants sat in neat rows, all dressed in crisp suits and polished shoes that gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Everyone was there for the same reason, one coveted position at one of the city's most prestigious companies. And then, she walked in. Her name was Emily Carter, a 26-year-old woman with hopeful eyes and a resume she had printed on borrowed paper. But what most people noticed wasn't her determination or the confidence in her smile, it was her shoes. The black flats she wore were scuffed, worn thin, and at the left seam, one had torn open. It wasn't the kind of detail you could easily miss. A whisper spread through the room like wildfire, and soon, quiet chuckles filled the air. She couldn't even afford proper shoes for an interview, one man smirked. Another woman muttered, "This is a corporate office, not a charity." Emily heard every word, but she kept her eyes forward, clutching her resume a little tighter. What they didn't know was the story behind those shoes. They had been her mother's, shoes worn through years of double shifts as a waitress to keep food on the table. After her mother passed away, Emily wore them not because she couldn't afford better, but because they reminded her why she was fighting so hard. Every step in those shoes carried her mother's sacrifices. The receptionist called her name, "Emily Carter, please come in." The room went silent for a moment, then a few muffled laughs followed her as she walked to the door. But Emily didn't look back. Inside the interview room sat 3 panelists, but at the center was Mr. James Whitmore, the CEO himself. Known for building the company from the ground up, he was a man who valued grit over gloss, though few truly understood that. Emily handed over her resume, and one of the panelists glanced down at her shoes. She saw the faintest smirk tug at the corner of his lips. But before he could say anything, the CEO leaned forward. "Emily," he said, his voice calm but commanding, "I have one question before we begin." Her heart raced. Was he going to bring up the shoes too? He asked, "Why should we choose you, out of 33 other candidates?" Emily took a breath. She could have rattled off her skills, her GPA, her experiences. But instead, she chose honesty. "Because I know what it's like to fight for every opportunity," she said. "I may not have the best shoes in this room, or the fanciest suit, but I have something else, perseverance. I've worked jobs most people overlook, I've supported my family when things got hard, and I never give up, no matter how difficult the path looks. If you give me this chance, I won't take it for granted. I'll give everything I have, every single day." The room went quiet. Mr. Whitmore studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled, just slightly. "Thank you, Emily," he said. "That will be all." When she walked back into the waiting area, heads turned. Some smirked again, whispering about how short her interview was. A man in a navy suit leaned over and said, "Better luck next time. Maybe invest in better shoes." Emily sat quietly, waiting for the results, her fingers trembling in her lap. Finally, the door opened, and the receptionist stepped out with a sheet of paper. "The CEO would like to see Emily Carter again." Gasps filled the room. Emily stood slowly, feeling every pair of eyes on her. She walked back in, heart pounding. This time, Mr. Whitmore stood up. He held her resume in one hand, but his gaze went straight to her shoes. Then, without hesitation, he said, "Out of 33 candidates, I choose you." Emily blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "Me?" "Yes," he said firmly. "You." One of the panelists looked confused. "Sir, with all due respect." But Mr. Whitmore raised his hand to silence him. Then he turned to Emily and said, "Do you know why I built this company? Because I once walked into my first interview wearing shoes worse than yours. People laughed at me too. But someone looked past the surface and saw my potential. That one chance changed my life. And today, I'm paying it forward." Emily's throat tightened, her eyes welling with tears. The CEO added, shoes can be bought. Skills can be learned. But resilience, that cannot be taught. You've already proven you have it. When Emily walked out of that office, she wasn't just holding a job offer. She was carrying a powerful lesson. Your worth is never defined by what you wear, but by who you are. The same people who had laughed at her torn shoes now sat in stunned silence. Not one dared to meet her eyes. For Emily, it wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving her mother right. That hard work, integrity, and kindness would always lead her to the right doors. In the months that followed, Emily thrived in her role. She worked harder than anyone else, and soon, she wasn't just another employee, she became one of the CEO's most trusted team members. One evening, while leaving the office, Mr. Whitmore stopped her at the door. You know, he said with a warm smile, I think your mother would be proud. And if I may say, keep those shoes. They remind you where you came from. Never lose that. Emily nodded, her heart full. She kept the shoes tucked safely away at home, not as a reminder of poverty, but as a symbol of resilience, love, and second chances.